Hello there everyone and welcome to another episode with Feel Good with me. I'm your host Idan Naor, and once again we have the incredible Dr. Joel Fuhrman joining us today. And today I would like Dr. Joel Fuhrman to talk to us a little bit about first things, and I will talk here is that we're talking plant-based, and people although hear about the different views of how to do it, etc., but there are certain things that often come up is that where will we get our protein from if we go plant-based, and are these proteins enough for a person with fibromyalgia, ME, long COVID? And then what about vitamin B12 and vitamin D3? How do we get those from? So Dr. Joel Fuhrman does not need an introduction. He's a 7-time New York Times best-selling author. I will leave the link below and the previous video as well so you can watch that. But I think if we can start with these 3 questions, so proteins, vitamin B12 and vitamin D3, and any other thing that you think someone may have a concern going fully plant-based, would be great.
Oh, well, great to talk to you and your audience today. The most important thing to remember about protein is that excess protein is the major cause of premature death in the modern world. That's the most important thing, that people have been brainwashed and misinformed to think that animal protein is favorable to their longevity, when in fact, animal protein for a primate like a human, who is genetically related to the apes and the chimps and the baboons and the gorillas, we're a green vegetable dependent animal. We're designed with a long digestive tract to get our protein needs met by vegetables and beans and nuts. But nevertheless, as we exceed our protein needs, as we take in more protein than we can utilize, and animal protein in particular is high biological quality, which means the body can turn it into a hormone immediately. So it's the excess animal protein that's responsible for elevating a hormone called IGF-1, insulin-like growth factor 1, which is a primary growth hormone for humans. And in adulthood, elevated levels of IGF-1 are linked to higher rates of breast cancer, colon cancer, and prostate cancer. And of course, premature aging of the brain and acceleration of the aging process. We don't want to be promoting excessive growth in an animal that's fully grown. So the real question is, how much animal products can a person eat and not exceed their protein requirements and promote a cancer-promoting environment and cause a cancer-promoting environment? And the answer to that question is very little, because once you're eating more than, let's say, 10 ounces of animal protein a week, you're already driving your IGF-1 up into a level of cancer-promoting danger. Now, one of the most striking and unprecedented findings in the field of scientific and nutritional research over the last decade is that more animal protein in the diet is linked to shorter lifespans. And the daily consumption of animal protein, is what most people are eating, is taking more than 10 years off their life. The second most thing that we've seen is more plant protein accelerates lifespan. So when you move your diet to either mostly plant-based or totally plant-based, then paying attention to protein does matter, because a higher protein plant foods are linked to longer lifespan. So you can get too low in protein on a plant-based diet if you're just living on bread and pasta and oils and fruit, because the foods that are high in protein on a plant-based diet are green vegetables, beans and legumes, nuts and seeds, and whole grains like quinoa, kamut, amaranth, teff, so on. But mostly greens, beans, and nuts and seeds. And we're showing that greens, beans, and nuts and seeds are linked to longest lifespans in humans. So those are the foods with the best link to longer lifespans. And they give you a complete protein, but not excess amount. The body can make incomplete proteins complete because it stores amino acids in the lining in the interstitial tissue. We have bacteria in the gut. We slough off our own epithelial cells onto our food. We're able to complete the protein to make adequate amounts. But the body's not going to make an excessive amount from plants. It only makes an excessive amount from animal products because it can't shut it out. It keeps getting absorbed, and it doesn't have to wait till it's complete to turn it into hormone. And because protein is not as conveniently and easily converted into fat as carbohydrate and fat is by the body, more of the excess protein is shunted to produce more growth hormones, which are unfavorable for lifespan. There's other factors why animal protein shortens lifespan. It promotes the growth of certain gram-negative bacteria in the gut that are then fuel a compound called TMAO, trimethylamine oxide, which is a pro-inflammatory substance that inflames the endothelial lining of blood vessels. But animal products, of course, people are aware, are rich in saturated fat, which raises cholesterol, promotes a lot of other factors that allow cancer cells to replicate, but also allow atherosclerosis and heart disease to advance. So almost all nutritional scientists in the modern world today who review a huge preponderance of overwhelming amount of long-term studies now, studying hard endpoints with the age at which people die, are now recommending people reduce animal products in their diet of all types and increase more plants in their diet, not just to reduce protein, but to get more exposure to antioxidants and phytochemicals. It's this whole huge quantity of phytochemicals, both discovered and undiscovered, that the human immune system needs to maximize its protection against viruses and cancer cells and bacteria and other microorganisms. So our immune system is mostly suppressed and not functioning normally because the diets around the world are so high in processed foods, white flour, and animal products, which don't contain phytochemicals and antioxidants. The huge amount of people eating, bread and pasta and pizza, and then eating animal products and sugars and honey and maple syrup and sweeteners and oils, and then putting oil on the food, like olive oil. So they're getting so many empty calories that they have their dietary pie has no amount of colorful plants to supply the nutrients the immune system fuels on. So the main question is, how do we get people to eat more colorful plants, particularly green vegetables? And I have this acronym GBOMBS, GBOMBS, which stands for greens and beans and onions and mushrooms and berries and seeds, so people know they have to eat those foods every day if they want to have a normal immune system that's protected against cancer and against viruses.
And also, just hearing you how you talk about the foods which are good as a good source of a plant protein. Yes, it's antioxidants and protein, but also I can imagine for the microbiome, and maybe you can touch a little bit the microbiome and how consuming these kinds of plants, proteins and plant foods as the G-bombs from your book, what will they do to the microbiome of our digestion tract, and also what's the benefits of increasing the diversity and feeding all of that good bacteria flora?
That's right. We've changed a lot in the way we look at the microbiome and the healthy flora in the digestive tract. We used to think years ago that taking in acidophilus and bifidus and other bacteria that you can grow on in a petri dish or grow from dairy products, we used to think that that was favorable to do. And now we've learned that it's the diversity of species, of gram-positive species in the digestive tract, how the bacteria adhere to the villi and create a protective biofilm that helps form our immune system with this thickened protective biofilm and the support of the intraepithelial lymphocytes that are under the villi, that are surround the digestive tract. The combination of the intraepithelial lymphocytes, the lymph nodes, and the the defenders at the gates of the castle, the immune system that hugs the digestive tract and the microbiome that covers it work hand in hand. And the bacteria and the nutrients from greens feed these aryl hydrocarbon receptors that are around it that fuel the growth of the immune system, the digestive tract. And then the thickened biofilm slows the absorption of nutrients into the bloodstream and lowers the glycemic load of carbohydrates, which make for a lowered insulin response. So now we know it's the diversity of different type of plants in the diet and different colorful plants. And we have this unprecedented opportunity in human history where we can eat a more diverse diet, better than the blue zones. You know, the blue zones are areas where people generally live longer around the world. They're recognized because people who are culturally, or the foods grown in that area, allow people to eat more diversity of colorful plants. But that plant diversity is usually not as broad as what's available to us today in modern supermarkets and farmers markets. We can get like green vegetables all year round. We can use frozen food and use frozen berries. We have access to more different types of mushrooms and different types of greens. We have access to different types of nuts and different types of, onions. And so the point I'm making right now is with using what we've learned in modern nutritional science, we're enabling humans to achieve the lifespan, the normal lifespan for a human. We call it superimmunity because you're immune from cancer and heart disease and strokes and dementia, and you can't be hurt by COVID when your immune system is functioning with all these nutrients intact. But I say that the normal lifespan for humans should be between 97 and 107. Should be like at least 95 to 105, but we're seeing most of these people live past 97. So I'm thinking that with an optimal exposure to this broad spectrum of nutrients, we should not see lifespans between 70 and 80 on the average around the world, and we shouldn't see the blue zones, which usually live 5 to 8 years longer, are still should not be recognized as the ideal, because nutritional excellence can push that envelope of human longevity so we can have a healthier life expectancy and still live longer without fear of cancer or heart disease or strokes.
It just sounds lovely to increase our lifespan, stay sharp in our mind, capable in our body, and to do it in a natural way and enjoy it all the way, because I don't know, who doesn't love a good meal of hummus or guacamole or all the other good plant foods? There is.
Now, raw vegetables show the most consistent and powerful association with the reduction of cancers of all type in the scientific literature. So we want people to have a large salad every day, not a small little soup bowl size, but a big serving bowl, like a big serving bowl size with a combination of dark green lettuces, but also cruciferous greens, broccoli, cabbage, kale, collard greens, bok choy. We want different types of cruciferous greens and the greens to eat enough leafy green leaves, enough different types of plant leaves in your diet, and chew it really well. And then we mix that with, of course, green onions, scallion, onions, and other things, like including tomatoes and other vegetables. And then put a dressing on top of the salad that's made from nuts and seeds, not predominantly made from oil, because there's a huge difference between using oil as a source of fat or using a whole food like nuts or seeds as an avocado as a source of fat. I'm saying right now that most of the fat consumed in the modern diet across the world is from animal fat or from oil. And both animal fats and oil accelerate aging and promote and accelerate people to become too overweight. And the fat sources, the foods that give us enough fat that are linked to enhancing longevity, are these plant fats found when you eat the whole walnut, sesame seed, hemp seed, pistachio nut, when you eat the whole nut or seed. And we blend the nuts and seeds with vinegar and some sauces and some tomato to make dressings and dips instead of using oil. And then we use nuts and seeds as a source to make ice cream or to make desserts or to make. So that's a very different way of eating. This nutritarian diet that I'm espousing is a very different way of eating, because we're getting our fat by eating a whole plant as opposed to eating the oil extracted from that plant. It's just the biggest scam ever perpetrated on the human population, was making them think that olive oil and oil on your food is healthy for you, when it's healthier than eating animal fat but it's not the same thing as eating the whole olive, eating the whole walnut, eating the whole nut or seed as a source of fat.
Absolutely. I've made a small observation. I hope you don't mind. I make, but often you see people in their 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s. Under their eyes, they have some swollen or some dark encircling, and you can see in yours it's really nearly non-existent, like in a young person. And I really do, even myself, if I have lots of oil in my previous years and salt, I can feel my fingers swell, and also under there I can feel them puffy. And I really believe cutting those off, because if it's doing that under my and in my fingers, so what does it does to my organs? You can only imagine. You probably you know from experience, but maybe you can tell us, just because I had this quick observation, if you don't mind, what does it mean when our finger swells from excess of sodium and oils, and under our eyes as well? And then the second part I'd like you to talk us through is, often I'm hearing people that they want to go plant-based, but they feel they're not feeling energized enough. The body, maybe they have a bit of loose stool to begin with. So I always tell them, just try to persevere, and because we're doing a change in our body, so it's just getting used to it. And often you probably haven't had a big salad more than, as you say, forget a soup bowl, couple of spoons that most people will have, not with every meal, but maybe at the weekend, if they even been like great to the body. That's all it is. So if you can talk to us a little bit about why sodium and oil seem to make swell or retain the water in us, or swell the bags under the eyes, and also how can we go through the period of transition better?
Well, most people eating conventionally food are ubiquitously deficient in micronutrients, not vitamins and minerals, but they're deficient in phytochemicals and antioxidants. This also affects glycation end products, and excess sodium is toxic to the body and can cause microvascular hemorrhaging and inflame the interior lining of blood vessels, causing, but in any case, I'm lumping it all together into a person that is not eating healthfully, has different types of toxic waste products in their body. And the body feels the need to retain fluid to dilute the acidity of and the toxicity of the tissues. So the swelling or carrying of more body fluid is somewhat of a protective mechanism to reduce the concentration or the irritation of the body's own metabolic wastes. When your diet is healthy, and your body is not toxic, then you're not going to get withdrawal of fatigue when you're not eating food, and you're not going to feel weak and wasted, and you're not going to swell up all the time and be bloated and full and carry excess water around. When we come people to our retreat here in San Diego, and they might lose 25 pounds the first month, they're dropping a tremendous amount of water weight. They'll feel fatigued and weak the first week because they're detoxing. So much toxins coming out of the body, so they feel very fatigued. But they know it's okay to feel fatigue or feel worse the first week. And they're encouraged that's good that's happening to them. And they get on the scale and the weight's pouring off them. They're not just losing fat, they're losing water weight, fluid. So right, we're getting the excess salt out, we're getting the excess animal protein causes a buildup of nitrogenous wastes too, nitrogen-based waste like urea and uric acid and ammonia in the body, which also can cause fluid retention. But in any case, the combination of the extra salt and the extra protein and the extra, all the buildup of toxins. Now, when you're not digesting food, your body can more effectively cleanse and heal and repair. So when digestion finishes, maybe 3 or 4 hours after a meal, people might feel fatigued and they want to eat again to get their energy up. They're not getting their energy. They're just getting the body back into the digestive cycle. What I'm saying right now is that the act of not digesting, which enhances repair and detoxification, makes people feel fatigued and wiped out if they're not healthy. But if you're healthy and you have adequate nutrients in your body, then when you're not eating food, you don't feel weak, you feel great. You can wait till your body burns off those calories until you actually have a need for more glycogen, and then you get hungry, you don't get fatigued. What I'm saying right now is fatigue is not a symptom of hunger. And people shouldn't be eating food in response to fatigue. They should be eating food in response to being hungry. They shouldn't get fatigue when they don't eat food, if they're eating the right food when they are eating food. So what I'm saying is that that feeling of shakiness, headache, fatigue, or withdrawal symptoms from a poor diet, like a person stops opiates or stops smoking cigarettes, they don't feel better when they stop drinking 10 cups of coffee a day or smoking cigarettes or shooting up cocaine. They feel worse. It's called detoxification. When people stop their unhealthy diet, they might feel worse temporarily, but then they're going to start to feel great. And they're usually feeling better within a week.
Amazing. So you're actually not an advocate of grazing throughout the day. You would say have 2 or 3 good meals and then give yourself a good breaks in between them.
That's correct. But I'm not so concerned if people, have a piece of fruit or have something in the middle of the day between a meal, as long as they stop eating by 6 o'clock at night. And the most important thing is don't eat within 4 hours of bedtime. The most important thing is to have when you're sleeping at night, getting the most healing and repair from the sleep cycle by not going to bed on a full stomach. So we want people to try to eat an earlier dinner, which is very different than a lot of European customs, where people, don't eat much all day long, and then they have this big dinner at 9 o'clock at night, right before they go to bed, which is not great for the long-term health. They should be eating earlier in the day and eating less at night and going to bed on an empty stomach.
Which is in line with nature. You would eat when there is light and you can see what you're eating, and not when there's no light. And yeah, it makes a lot of sense actually.
Right.
Okay, so we touched on that, and you're saying just if people are in transition into a good, healthy, plant-based diet from a diet where they would eat anything and everything the whole day, etc., then it's a normal feeling to feel a bit weak and tired the first few weeks, because they're basically cleaning their act, they're detoxifying, they are going through some withdrawal symptoms of not eating the whole time, not drinking all the coffees and eating the chocolates and meats and animals. So that's to be expected, and they just need to ride it on basically.
That's right. And they're relatively hyponatremic as well, because when you're on a high sodium diet, when you're taking an extra salt, your body gets used to pushing out a lot of salt in the urine and the sweat. And when you go from a high salt diet to a low salt diet, temporarily your kidney is still excreting too much sodium. And you're still not taking in much, but your kidney thinks you're on a high sodium diet that you were in the past. So it keeps putting out too much sodium. It takes a few weeks for the kidney to be able to curtail its amount of electrolyte excretion. And so it starts to hold on to salt instead of low. So you don't have to, you're taking in less, but your amount of salt, potassium, and sodium and chloride in your bloodstream still stays stable, because your kidney is better at holding on to it, not excreting it, which means you don't sweat salt and chloride and potassium as much either. So you're not sweating out salt. So when you're going and running and playing tennis and working outside in the heat, you're not going to have the need to you're not going to feel cramps, or you're not going to feel the need to take in electrolytes, because your body's not going to be losing electrolytes, because your body learns how to hold on to sodium and just excrete extra and just to sweat with water in the heat and high exercise in the heat. So what I'm saying is your body becomes more stable when you take in less sodium, because when you the excess sodium you have to excrete by the kidney and by the sweat pulls other electrolytes out with the body at the same time. You can't just get the sodium out. It takes out potassium, magnesium, chloride, and it lowers your levels of electrolyte retention. So the extra sodium causes you to actually be deficient in potassium and magnesium, because your body's excreting all the extra sodium all the time.
Wow. And yeah, a lot of meat prepared is or preserved in salt, and so is cheese often. So the amount of sodium we consume when we eat them is so high compared to plant-based, where it's not prepared, it's just as nature intended. You just take it off the ground.
Right. The amount of sodium humans need is present in the food already. We don't have to add it to the food. There's sodium in the safe amount already in natural foods. So the primates don't add sodium to their food. And when we look at primitive human populations around the world that have been isolated from the use of salt, they don't have high blood pressure and heart disease in the civilization or their ancestors. So then the most elderly people in those populations have the same blood pressure as children in the population. So this addiction to salt is really, it ages the cardiovascular system and causes a tremendous amount of cerebral hemorrhages or strokes around the world as well.
Wow, wow. So even sea salt would not be recommended, like those Celtic wet sea salt, grey.
Yeah, it's not the type of salt or the minerals the salt contain. That's more just alternative, nonsensical, marketing. It's the amount of sodium you're consuming in all those high mineral salts. They're not high in minerals, just have a little bit of minerals, but all those salts that are touted as being beneficial or better than regular table salt still have 2,200 milligrams of sodium per teaspoon, not per tablespoon, per teaspoon. They're more than 2,000 milligrams. How is a person taking in? Doesn't matter where the sodium comes from. If you're taking in 2,000 to 4,000 of milligrams of sodium a day, you're going to develop disease. There's nobody that's not going to get eventually age their body prematurely and damage their blood vessels from consuming that amount of sodium. So more nonsense than marketed to people.
Yeah, it's a huge, I didn't realize it's this high number. It's crazy. So thank you for clarifying that. That's a great important point. I also wanted to cover with you a few other foods which are mentioned that are in common food. So when we go food shopping, one of my greatest things which I enjoy to do at food shopping is looking at the back of the package to see the ingredients. So maybe you can give us a quick guide of what ingredients that we see at the packaged foods in a supermarket or anywhere we go. If you can help us simplify it and how to know what is it we're eating, because I ate so clean for so many years, and when I'm going out with family or friends to do shopping and I see the things they will be picking up and I'm saying, can I have a look at the ingredient list? And you see 40 ingredients, 20 of them in Latin or Greek, and you think, wow, what are these doing there? So tell us a little bit about food shoppings and ingredients. I'm sure you have experience and you can help us here.
Maybe not, because I don't recommend people eat food in packages and that have ingredients at all. Because they're recommending people eat fruits and vegetables and beans and nuts and seeds and then what foods comes in packages. I mean, they don't really make foods from flour either, and all those packaged foods are salted. So what am I thinking? I could buy beans in a can.
So it's one ingredient per package. It's tomatoes and it contains tomatoes. It's carrots and it has carrots. It's chickpeas and it's garbanzos, or however you say it. So
yeah, what are you eating in a package? I mean, I make soups like that I sell, but we make all natural ingredients in the soups. But I mean, you could make, of course, if you buy a commercial soup that's mostly vegetables, it usually has too much sodium. So the main thing they're reading on the label, if they're buying a tomato paste or a soup or a bean or chili, or just occasionally something in a package, the main thing they're reading is sodium. And picking the lowest sodium product of tomato sauce in a glass jar, they want to not make their own. They got to buy the one that has the least amount of salt. So obviously, if there's a list of these ingredients, you don't even consider those foods. You don't have to know the list of what to avoid. Don't even consider eating a food that has a lot of different those ingredients in them. You know what I mean? It doesn't take. You don't have to learn any science here. Just eat simple foods, and occasionally, sometimes I'm making something where I'm putting some tomato paste. But I'm buying this jar of tomato paste to mix in, and there's only one ingredient, tomatoes, in the whole thing. And if there's salt, I don't even have salt added to it. You can buy the little jars of tomato paste. I can't think of what else I'd be getting in a package except tofu, and the only ingredient is calcium chloride in soybeans, or agar or something. So yes, very few ingredients. Watch the sodium intake, and don't buy too much of your diet from a package. When I go to travel, I get frozen foods in a package, but there's the only thing added to the frozen foods of the food. It's like frozen asparagus, frozen peas. If I'm getting a no salt thing of frozen peas, frozen broccoli florets, frozen blueberries. I'm buying frozen fruits and vegetables with almost no ingredient in it. And I'm a big, I do advocate people eat frozen food. I think frozen food is very economically beneficial for people, and it gives you the ability to have a wider spectrum of food in your diet all year round, and people can afford to eat berries and vegetables that they couldn't always afford to get fresh and have them available fresh. So I think frozen food is a terrific option.
And if people say, I don't have enough time to to cook everything from scratch, but I want to have nice meals. For me, my simple answer would be, well, we have to make time for health because it's the only thing we really have. But anything you can add to that?
Well, we usually teach people a plan before they leave here when they're at it. And in my books and videos, I'm teaching people how to make great recipes, but how to do most of the cooking. Two episodes, like Wednesday evening, they cook for Thursday and Friday and Saturday. They eat leftovers, and and on a Sunday they make a soup that they can eat the whole week. And they make another salad dressing on Sunday that they can eat on Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday. So they're usually eating leftovers for a few days, and they try to cook in batches. So they're cooking twice a week. So the whole family gets together on Sunday afternoon and cooks for a couple of hours and prepares most of the food for the next 4 days. And the same thing, so then you shop once on the weekend, and you shop once during the week for food, and you prepare the food 2 times after you shop, put it away, get it. So it's very easy to then just add a little sauce to what you're eating, or put the food in a wok and put some, your Thai curry sauce on top, and serve a dinner on top of a plate of quinoa or spaghetti squash, or whatever it is you're making. In other words, we can make this diet easier to make than conventional diets that people eat. It doesn't have to be harder to make. And we make delicious tasting, vegetable and bean soups, and we have a salad dressing that we make for a few days. But opening a bag of like frozen vegetables and putting it on top of a salad with a healthy dressing, and opening a soup and having a soup that you store in the refrigerator, and some fresh fruit or frozen fruit for dessert, takes a few minutes to make the meal. It takes 10 minutes to put the meal together.
It does.
So it's planning ahead and cooking in batches. And then when I was, my wife and myself both worked full time. So we would sometimes have a college student come in like 10 hours a week and help us shop and make some of our food. So we would give them all the recipes, what we wanted them to make us. And they would, so we'd have sometimes when I was in the throes of my busy medical career, working 90 hours a week, I'd pay somebody to help me do part of the cooking too,
Amazing idea.
I enjoy shopping, and I like picking what I want to eat, and I enjoy the cooking too. So, we've always done a lot of, made recipes and experimented and have fun as a family, cooking together as a family and making good food, good tasting food together.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's so important to connect to the foods and handle it and chop it and cook. We see what goes in. That's, absolutely. And maybe we can leave some recipes from Dr. Joel Fuhrman below with the link of his retreat, where you can go and learn how to restart your body and eating.
I think I have 2,000 recipes on my website, 2,000. And they're rated by members, where the members of the website give it like 4 stars, 5 stars, like maybe some of our healthy salad dressings, some of the desserts, So we have so many incredibly delicious recipes that are kind of easy to make. And I have even a cookbook. I have the Eat to Live cookbook, and I have the Eat to Live Quick and Easy cookbook too, of recipes that are made with fewer ingredients. They're easy to make. People love that stuff.
Fantastic. I'd leave the links in the description below, so we can find those recipes and learn about them, and learn about the 6 G bombs which Dr. Joel Fuhrman wrote about and advocates. They're so important for so many reasons, and it will give you a better perspective of how to eat better and why we choose them. He goes into real details into those foods with some science as well. So it's really great. Is there anything else you'd like to add to our audience today?
Well, I want to make sure that I'm perfectly clear that I'm saying that I'm making these radical claims that are true. I'm saying that you don't have to have a heart attack or a stroke. It's still the #1 cause of death in the modern world for adults. And it doesn't have to happen to anybody. No. And why live in fear of cancer and heart disease and stroke when you can eat delicious food that offers you protection? And I'm also saying that the amount of COVID deaths worldwide is because of poor nutrition, and not because the virus can't kill a really healthy person. And I'm saying that nutritional excellence is therapeutically effective to reverse disease, to get rid of your asthma, to get rid of your body pain, to get rid of your fibromyalgia, to get rid of your
Eczema.
Your diabetes goes away, your high blood pressure goes away, your chest pains go away, your rheumatoid arthritis and your multiple sclerosis can go away. That nutritional excellence is the most powerful therapeutic intervention to help people get healthy and stay healthy. It's not going to doctors and taking pills and taking drugs. It's modern nutritional excellence that affords people the most protection and the most effective therapy to get well.
I love your work. I truly believe in your words, and I've been living in that way for over 15 years. And I seen for myself what the difference from thyroid issues, severe IBS, ME, fibromyalgia has done for me eating in a correct way. So Dr. Joel Fuhrman, thank you again so much for your work and for always talking to us. And I look forward to doing another episode with you in the future, going into different topics. If you'd like Dr. Fuhrman to cover other topics, please leave a comment in below and we will try to cover them. Once again, thank you.
Okay, take care, everybody. Bye-bye.